वाति वात समिन्धे वह निर्धते धरणिरुदधे लंघते नैव वेलाम् सोऽयं श्रीमान् निखिल जगताम् अन्तरात्मावतीर्णो धर्मं रक्षन् दिशतु कुशलम् स्वामिनारायणोऽयं गुणातीतोऽक्षरं ब्रह्म भगवान् पुरुषोत्तमः जनो जानन्निदं सत्यं मुच्यते भवबन्धनात्। सजान स्वामी महाराज निजय, अक्षर पुरुषोत्तम महाराज निजय, राधा कृष्ण देव निजय, रामचंद्र भगवान की जय, प्रमुख स्वामी महाराज निजय। In the divine presence of our Guruji, Pujya Pramukh Swami Maharaj, Pujya Mahan Swami, Pujya Ishwar Swami, saints, friends and devotees. The question is of faith. How many people really genuinely have faith? How many of us can genuinely say that I really believe in whatever Swamiji says, whatever our scriptures say, whatever the great rishis have said? The question is of faith. What happened that we are so tied up in this modern material world that the question remains of faith. One man, he died. Now when he died, angels came up and they asked that man, okay, you've had your life on earth, now where do you want to go? Do you want to go to hell or heaven? That man said, do I have a choice? I mean, can I choose to go to heaven or hell? Is it free? The angel said, well, don't argue, you've got a choice. You want to go to hell or heaven? He says, really, can I choose? The angel said, well, it's a democracy is catching up here as well, so you can choose. And he said, well, if you're so democratic, I felt that if you did bad on earth, you'd go to hell. If you did good on earth, you'd go to heaven. The angel said, look, don't argue. You've got a choice, you can choose. The man said, well, if you're so democratic, you must have some leaflets or some video cassettes which I could see prior to my choice making. The angel said, okay, we're equipped with that. So okay, he gave him some pamphlets and 2 video cassettes, one on hell, one on heaven. They said, you've got 2 days to make up your mind whether you want to go to hell or heaven. The man, quickly, the first thing he did was to put the cassette of heaven inside. He's heard so much good things about heaven, that in heaven you can find peace. In heaven, it's your paradise. What you want, you can get that, and things like that. Now when he put in the cassette and he saw it, to his shock and horror, that in heaven people were all skinny. Some people were on top of a mountain meditating. Some people were freezing on top of a mountain meditating. Some were performing their madas, puja and things like that. People hardly ate anything. This man said, well, if this is heaven, I don't want to go there. He put in the cassette of hell, and to his surprise, he found people healthy. People going up and down, people desiring whatever they could have. They could get that, drinks, food, every luxury he could think of was in that video cassette. He quickly called him and said, look, I've made the decision, I want to go to hell. He said, sure? You sure you want to go to hell? He said, yes, I'm sure I want to go to hell. He says, I'm giving you a last choice. If you want to go to heaven, you can take that staircase upstairs. And if you want to go to hell, you can take that escalator downstairs. He said, well, that's modern, so I'll go to hell anyway. So he said, okay, I want to go to hell. Then he says, the angel said, you can go into this lift anyway, this elevator. The man, he opens up the elevator, gets into the elevator, he presses the button, and when he presses the button of hell, to his terror, the flooring of the elevator opens up, and he falls into a dark, dark pit full of urine, feces. It stinks terribly. He goes down, is neck deep into that pit, and he's crying upstairs. He says, "Hey, what's all this? I thought heaven and hell." And a voice came down. He said, "That was our publicity department." Just imagine what I'm trying to highlight here, that what is reality and what we exhibit. It is so easy for us to accept something like this, that publicity is sometimes far, far away from what reality is. But ask yourself, how real are you? How real are we staying in this material world? What is reality and what is really showmanship? Every doctor, every lawyer, if you meet somebody, he would rather have himself look a bit better than what he really is. It's a common thing. Human being, human nature is there to show something more than what reality is. But we've been gripped in this vicious circle so badly, so fiercely, that we've moved away from the real source of reality of a human being. Lord Swaminarayan has said that in reality, all of us are Atma. In reality, that all of us are soul. And in reality, soul is blissful. There is no pain. There is no misery. There is no contention. There is no jealousy. There is no hatred. There is love, joy, and bliss. But ask yourself, how many times in a day do you suffer from agony? How many times in a day do you suffer from hatred, anger, jealousy, fear? This shows that we've moved away from the real us. We are really soul. Swami Vivekananda has said that every soul is potentially divine. All of us at the root, we are divine. But we've so much moved away from reality that we've become so much body conscious, so much into the pit of misery and agony, that we've lost the taste, genuine taste of God, bliss, and that's why we're losing faith. What happened? That every time Socrates, if you've heard of Socrates, he was a great philosopher and a thinker. He's known as, like Vyasa was the propounder of Hinduism, Socrates began the philosophy of the Western people. Any man who came to Socrates to become his disciple, Socrates would send him to a small pool of water and then ask him to come, ask him one question, and then decide whether to make him a disciple or not. Now somebody asked him, Socrates, why do you send him to that pool of water, a small pond? And what question do you ask? Socrates said that I send him to the pool, and when he comes back, I asked him that you look into the pool, and when he comes back I ask him, what did you see? And if that man said, I saw my reflection, then I don't take him into my disciple. If that man said, I saw some fish and the beautiful things inside the pond, then I take him. Because a man who is much conscious of his body and his material things, that man is useless in the spiritual field. It's so that whenever we see something, we get engrossed in our own selves, in our body, in our material pleasures, that we lose the reality of life, what life is, should be, and how we should enjoy life. But if you can shape your life such, make it pure, train it, it could be worth millions. Robert Pauli, he is a very famous cartoonist, and he done a very important cartoon on a simple thing of human life, and this is what it had. In the first cartoon snapshot, he put a small iron bar, and on top of that iron bar, he put the price that worth $5. An iron bar worth $5. In the next cartoon strip, he put the same iron bar shaped into a horseshoe. Then he said, this is worth $10.50. In the third cartoon, he put the same iron bar split into small needles. How many needles can you get from that small iron bar? Shaped into small needles, and then he said the total worth of this needles would be $350. And then in the last thing, he put the same iron bar made into small springs for watches, small delicate springs for watches. And then he said this would be worth more than $3,000 to $5,000. Now the amount is the same iron bar, but if you shaped it properly, the worth increases. Human life, it's like that. Everybody has one life. But if you can make your life more refined, much more purer, much more divine, it could be worth millions. It's the same iron bar, the same size. Everything is exactly the same. But if you can refine it and shape it and mold it in a different manner, the same life could be worth millions. And that is what Lord Swaminarayan has said from the beginning, that you delve deeper into your Atma. You ask guidance if you can't understand. Don't try it on your own. Who says go on your own? There's so many people to guide you. But go inside and you shall find happiness. But what happens that we are so engrossed in the world that we don't really realize that happiness lies within. One man in early 1800s, he was so miserable, somewhere in Manchester in England. He was so miserable that he goes to a small doctor. And that doctor is supposed to give him some treatment to get rid of his agony and misery. So the doctor was sitting there, and that man went up to the doctor and said, "Doctor, I just can't find happiness. I can't even smile properly. There's nothing that I can enjoy in life. I mean, everything just seems blank to me." The doctor says, "Look, I used to feel like that." Then he said, "What did you do?" He said, "I'll give you the first treatment of the day." He says, "What?" "Before I give you the medicine, there's a circus in town, and there's a very, very funny clown, and he does so many good tricks that he makes everybody laugh. He's so enjoyable. Why don't you do one thing? Every night show, you go and visit that circus and look at that clown, you'll feel happy. Why don't you go?" That man, he said, "But doctor," he said, "just don't ask any questions. Just go to that circus and look at that clown, and he'll really give you a smile and make you much more pleasurable." He said, The doctor said, "Just do this." He said, "But doctor, I am that clown." Imagine, this is not a made-up story. That man's name is Gromelin. If you've been studying somewhere in England, you must have come and heard the name of Gromelin, the famous clown who passed through England. That man, he said, "I am that clown." He could bring smiles to so many people, but inside, he was hurtful. Sometimes the same thing happens to us. We go around giving pleasures to so many people. We go around buying houses. We go around making money. We go around creating an image. But ask yourself, within yourself, are you at peace? Ask yourself, if you could be sitting in one place and a person equal to you gets promoted, you don't feel jealous? Ask yourself, if somebody gets more money or extra marks or better facilities, you don't have an iota of jealousy? Man is split with certain things. So much so that our soul, if you take a white canvas paper, you put a beautiful red paint, one slash of red paint. Then somebody says, "I like green," puts green. Somebody puts yellow, blue, brown, so many different colors, that in the end, would it be as beautiful as a simple white paper? So many different impressions made upon that paper would ruin the paper on its own. Yes, if it was only red, it would be okay, beautiful. But so many different mixed up impressions will spoil it. What's happened to us? We are the pure divine Atma. But so many different impressions of pleasing somebody, doing some things, doing that, doing this in this material world, have painted it, mixed it with such viciousness that we can't find the purity we're looking for. It's very important we go back and find out the real purity and the way we should be. But that can only come through some type of realization, whether you get some pain in society or some inspiration or some guidance from a big saint. If you heard of the name of Bhartrihari. Now Bhartrihari, he was a very big king. It is said that he had so much wealth, so many people believing in him, so much power, that he was one of the most powerful kings in India. Bhartrihari, one incident changed his life. What happened? He used to have a very beautiful wife. He loved her deeply. But because he was a king, obviously he met other women as well. So he fell in love with another woman. Her name was Pingada, and he fell in love with her, and he used to associate with her many times. Now he had his wife as queen, but he liked this other woman as well. But what happened? Once this Rishi came to Bhartrihari's place. Now Bhartrihari appeased him with all his duties and obeisance. The Rishi got happy and he said, you give this fruit to your wife, and she will become Amar, as we say, she will become immortal, the one you love. Now Bhartrihari had to make a choice, whether to give it to his wife or to that lady she was seeing. Now what happened? The Bhartrihari, he loved his wife a lot. So he himself gave that small fruit to his wife. But his wife, she liked the horsekeeper in her kingdom. So she gives that fruit to that horse keeper. And that the horse keeper liked more than that queen, the woman that Bhartruhari was to see. So he gives that fruit to Bhartruhari, to that lady, Pingra. And she obviously was in love with Bhartruhari. So she said to Bhartruhari, I've got some good present for you. He says, what? I've got this fruit and you'll become immortal. Bhartruhari says, how did it get to you? See, it is a vicious circle. Then he traced it back and it came down that his wife was unfaithful to him. He was unfaithful to her. That man who his wife was saying, he was unfaithful to her. Everybody was unfaithful to everybody. And Bhartruhari then made a slok saying, Yam chintayami sadatam maisa virakta. Her of her, whom I remember every moment, she is away from me. Then he writes, Yam chintayami sadatam maisa virakta. Sapanyan janam ichhati sa janonya saktaha. Asmat kute cha paritushyati kachidanya. Diktam cha tam cha madanam cha imam cha mam cha. He says, whom I desire, she desires somebody else. Whom she desires, he desires somebody else. And whom she desires, he desires somebody else. So he says, Dik means, it says, Dik is a very, very, a perfect translation of Dik would be condemn, that's it, condemnation. I condemn her, I condemn him, I condemn her, I condemn myself, and I condemn lust. Imagine. When certain incident occurred, Bhartruhari says, the only place for me is to the spiritual world, and he became a spiritual monk. What I'm saying, that the whole world is a vicious circle. People are torn by desires, by material things. That if you want real peace or happiness, you have to start examining some different mode of happiness. So many of us are present here. Most of us come from India, some come from East Africa, some from England. But basically, all of us are Indians. But so what if we are all equal? We are so split by different environments and different things within our heart, it's very difficult to unite. One of the saints, he gives one example very often, that in America, it's very common to eat lobsters or crabs. They are known as delicacy. I don't know why, but they're known as delicacy. But America imports crabs from Japan, imports everything from Japan nowadays. But it imports crabs from Japan and India as well. Now there's a Bombay port, and from that port we send whole cratefuls of living crabs to America, and then they take them and sell them and cook and then eat. Now what happens, if you've ever seen crabs, the crabs, they never sit still at one place anytime. If you've gone on the seashore and if you've been bitten by a crab, you know what I mean. They're crawling all over the place. Now, every time a ship arrives from Japan, the crabs which are packed in that small crate, they are tightly put on with the lid, so none of the crab escapes. But what happened that once a ship arrived from Bombay, and the whole crab section with the boxes, none of the boxes had a lid on top, and yet not a single crab had got out. So the American authorities were quite surprised. They said, I don't know, I mean, we expected at least 2 or 3 crabs to come out, walk on the deck. But though there was no lid on top of the crate, yet not a single crab had come out. Now they wrote a letter to the Bombay authorities saying, I mean, I just can't believe it, that normally the crabs are packed tightly, lid on top, so no crab comes out. But there wasn't a lid on top of your crate, yet not a single crab came out. The Bombay authorities wrote back saying, these are Indian crabs. The moment one tries to get up, there are 10 pulling it down. This is what happens. This is what happens in society. This is not, maybe you have more experience than me, I don't know. This is what happens in society. The moment one man tries to progress, the other man can't stand his progress. They can't stand him, so there's 10 people get together and pull him down to make sure he doesn't progress. But let us examine, is this the real nature of human being? The real nature of human being is the uniting force. The real nature of human being is full of love, full of divinity. And can anybody genuinely from their heart bless their neighbors? This is the greatness of saints like Yogiji Maharaj, Pramukh Swami Maharaj, Gunatidaran Swami, Shastri Maharaj, Bhagavad and Lord Swaminarayan. If you come to Swami Shri can genuinely bless you, say you can become as rich as you like. You can progress, but you turn around to your own friends, can they really say it from their own heart, saying, okay, you progress much, much farther than me? It's very difficult. But that's why we say that spiritual people are much more helpful in these fields, because they're away from these material touches. They're unpainted, they're untarnished by the illness of materialism. And that generates so much power that anybody, however powerful he is in society, he has to bow down to him. In the Second World War, you know Hitler was very powerful. Hitler began the Second World War with such power, such dynamism, that he took Austria in 2 days. He took Poland. He took France, which was the most powerful nation in Europe, in 7 days. The entire Europe was under Hitler's feet. There's only Britain. Britain is a mini island in the North Sea. If the entire Europe has been won, Britain has no power. Hitler gives a warning to Churchill saying, if Churchill doesn't surrender, in the next 5 days, Britain shall have her neck twisted off like a chicken. This is what Hitler relayed on the radio. Everything was in tension. Churchill looked towards America, asking Roosevelt to help. There was no answer from Roosevelt. But Roosevelt, he sent one of his ambassadors to Edinburgh in Scotland. Churchill himself, though he was suffering from pneumonia, he went to Scotland. Scotland was a neutral country then, just to meet that ambassador, thinking whether Roosevelt is going to help me or not. The environment was tense. What happened? That two of them sat across the table, nobody there. Churchill did not have the guts to say, is America going to help me or not? 5 minutes they sat quietly, nobody could speak. Then Churchill, with a small pen and paper, he writes down. I read this in the autobiography of Churchill. He writes down on the piece of paper, he does not have the strength to speak, he says, what does America bring me? He slides the paper across to that ambassador, and that ambassador writes 3 sentences, and these are very historic sentences. He doesn't write anything, he says, your people are our people. Your enemy, our enemy. Your God is our God. It's on the last sentence that your God is our God that Churchill cried down with his eyes, and they got up and they shook hands and hugged each other. This was the last sentence of uniting America and England. But it is said that the Second World War was won on Churchill's speeches, that when war was declared, Germany bombed London so severely that first night that 80% of London was afire. The capital of England was burning, 80% was London was destroyed. And when London was afire, Churchill was so strong mentally that he gave the sign V for victory. Imagine, when 80% of your capital is burning, he had so much mental strength, he could say V for victory, and he motivated whole crowds of people against the German army, into the army, and they won the war. It is said because of Churchill's mental strength that the Second World War was won. But when Churchill was asked by General Smuts, the Prime Minister of South Africa, that Churchill, do you know Gandhi, Mahatma Gandhi? Churchill said, why? He says, have you met him? Churchill said, I fear him. Imagine, a man on whose words the Second World War was won. A man on whose strength the Second World War was won, he said he feared Mahatma Gandhi. Now Mahatma Gandhi, he was a leader of a nation which wasn't so powerful. India wasn't powerful in the Second World War. He was a leader of a nation which did not have so much money. He was a leader of a nation which did not have so much armor. Yet Churchill said, I feared Mahatma Gandhi. Why? Mahatma Gandhi wasn't physically strong. He didn't have so many people to motivate or activate. He had one thing, it is said, that he had the power of the soul. He was so pure in his soul that his character reflected so much light and power that he could ask Britain to quit India on the power of ahimsa without even touching them. Imagine. A country, an empire that ruled the entire world could be ousted from India by saying, we won't even touch you, just go. And they went. This was a power that Mahatma Gandhi had. But when Mahatma Gandhi was asked that what really generated him, these are his words in quote. He said, all the power I possess in the political field or any field I've worked in is power derived from the Hindu scriptures and God and spiritual prayers. Imagine. He did not say that it's from my intellectual power. He did not say it's from my talent. He did not say it's from this or that. He pointed to the soul, the spiritual world. Now, if you want to become powerful politically, If you want to become powerful financially, if you want to be stable socially, you have to have a force of spiritualism working behind you. It will give you health, it will give you power, it will give you stability. And that is why what I'm asking you to suggest today. That is why what I'm asking you to think about today, that one of the greatest symbols of spiritualism is a temple. What we did today this morning is not just dig a hole and place something in. We put the foundation of a great spiritual revolution. We put a foundation that in 10 years, if anybody visits that temple of Houston, if he changes his life, all that punya, all that goodness will go to the people present here. Everybody, what we've done today is not for ourselves, but for generations to come. So much so that it will generate faith in the people. If somebody is lost, if somebody who wants guidance, he can come to the temple and he will be inspired. That's what the greatness is. Taj Mahal is great, I tell you, yes. It's one of the most beautiful construction the world has ever known. It's one of the wonders of the world. I'm not criticizing it, but let us examine. It's a great construction, people go to see it. But at the root of the Taj Mahal, what's the bhavana behind it? Is love for a wife. Because the king, he loved his wife so dearly, he wanted to know, let everybody know that he loved his wife so dearly. Now everybody loves their wives, I hope. Everybody should love their wives. Now that's a common feeling. That's not something very unusual. So Taj Mahal is great, construction-wise, but when you're examining the depth of it, it's love for a wife, it's common. The pyramids, they are great. One of the wonders of the world in the Egypt. But if you look down at the depth of the pyramids, what is a pyramid? It's a tomb. Because one king, the pharaoh, he had so much money, so much fame, so much popularity, that the people said, we'll build a bigger tomb. Right? And because they believed in reincarnations, so they put all the facilities inside to help him. Now every man, if he dies, either is cremated or buried in a tomb. It's not unusual, it's common. Construction is great, but the thought behind is common. Our construction of Houston Temple may be small, but the thought behind is fabulous. It's an explosive thought to inspire people. It shall go on inspiring people for generations to come. And that is why I said this morning, yes, we stood there in the sun for more than 20 minutes, but every hot moment is worth it. Every bit of that moment is worth it. It's going to be helping people in the future generations. So let us see tonight that all of us should unite, because we can unite. A temple is the most simple place that needs no big conferences, where people of different caste, creed, backgrounds, tastes or liking can unite and smile together through the love of God. It's so common, we can come on a common platform. But if we can't do that, let me conclude with the last incident, that one man, he had to visit a mental hospital, not because he was mad, but he was visiting. So when he went to visit the mental hospital, there were more than 500 mental people inside the mental hospital. First ward he went into, one man, he was looking into the mirror, smiling at the mirror, making all sorts of sounds, peeling the banana, eating the skin, throwing the middle part out, whatever. It was just like a typical mental man. Some people were shouting here and there, some people crying, all sorts of shouts and screams were going on. This man, he got so scared. After his 20-minute visit, he quickly came out and he was about to leave the campus, but when he turned back, he found that at the gateway of the mental hospital, there were only 2 guards. So he had a question, that he came back and he said, hey, if you don't mind, I would like to ask you a question. He said, what? I mean, there are 500 mental people inside. I was scared that they might kill me or do some bad thing. I was so scared that I quickly came out. I mean, don't you think that all of these mental people sometime might harm you? There's only 2 guards protecting the entire hospital. The guard smiled and said, don't worry, lunatics never unite. So if we can't unite, you know where to put ourselves into. It's very important that we sit here and unite, and we can go towards a higher goal. So let us pray to Maharaj and Swami Shri that the temple is very benign. Let us unite and work towards a higher principle. Thank you very much. Sahajan Swami Maharaj.